what is the psychology for the apocalypse? It's driven by David's uncle's considerations on apocalypse blindness, and it just sort of sits with me. And I just added 2 graphs to our chat that are relevant to the conversation, which, of course, at the personal human level, we will always contemplate what affects us right immediately ourselves, right? Undoubtedly. And I think that's where Lompoc has a point. And I think that's what Brendan was talking about. And that's what I think, Ivan, you were also agreeing to, that, when I have cancer, I'm going to deal with the cancer no matter whether the world is right. That is obvious. The 2 graphics I pointed to are, to me, interesting as a contemplation about the distinction between the global reality and the kind of things we were talking about, including actually nuclear, including, things like diseases and, what we talked about. That the problem with what's happening with climate is that it is out of our control. We can choose to push the button on a nuke. We can choose to put vaccines into the world. We have some level of control over that. The 2 graphs, what I think is interesting about is the bottom graph is actually yesterday's ocean warming, the amount of heat in the oceans at this stage. And it's mind-blowing, right? It's mind-busting, the level of shift that we're watching. And what, of course, that means, if you take all that into consideration, is that has implications for everything from, melting of the Arctic and Antarctica to storms, to the type of hurricanes we've never seen, to you name it, to rainfall in funny places, to droughts in other places. These are the kind of signals that we're now seeing. And the graph above it is where does the energy come from? And when you look at that and you then think about Lisa and me getting on an airplane tomorrow, I'm going to drive my rental car from here to the airport. Every step we do in this modern civilization depends on the lower parts of that graphic, the upper graphic, right? We will continue to burn oil. We cannot stop it. We will continue to burn coal. We cannot stop it. Certainly not within the range of time that's required. So the juxtaposition between what we're beginning to see in radical ways, the radical heating that we're currently observing in Switzerland, they had to evacuate people in Switzerland. That has never happened, right? That doesn't happen. They're evacuating people in Greece. That's a little bit less rare, but nonetheless, it's everywhere, right? And there is no, as long as we keep doing the thing that's in the upper graph, which we cannot stop. That's the bomb that has gone off. That went off 150 years ago. It began to shift this new civilizational thing. So from that perspective, there's no way that it's not priority 1, right? Because these phenomena are now unstoppable. They will be with us for the rest of human history. We are going to deal with the reality of a massively changing climate, and there is nothing else that will come close to that from my perspective, given those 2 graphics, the stuff that you see. So just an update in terms of, this is a crazy ass summer. Next summer will be more so, right? We are now on a trajectory that is unimaginable.
And there's nothing, and so Herman, just on that point, there's actually nothing we can do. We're on that trajectory. So let's say, for example, coal production and coal usage in a poor country or whatever that needs to improve and whatever, it's pointless them actually trying to go renewables, which they can't, to achieve the level of developments or electricity as they can, because other countries aren't actually coming to the party. So we're on that trajectory of radical heating and the continuing to burn coal. We cannot stop it. So the question is, it is going to happen. There's just, you might as well say, well, why stop the coal in one country and not the other? The focus needs to be is, how do we live in that new environment? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is, very close to that, is that the shift in thinking is going to increasingly move to radical interventions, radical geoengineering type interventions, because we can't stop the other stuff, right? It makes no difference. We are on this trajectory now, and I mean, everything is just too slow. I mean, Lisa and I are spending our life energy on this project in Colombia because there's some possibility, at least, to draw down gigaton level of carbon, right? We have to shift our contemplation and not keep saying, I mean, including all the famous climate scientists, Mann and others, who keep saying at the end of everything they say, we just have to stop emissions. It's bullshit.
Right.
It's not going to happen. So let's not keep saying we need to stop emissions. We're not doing it. We can't do it. It's not going to happen.
I agree.
Then, once we realize that, once that's a given, now we can start to think about reality, right? And the reality is what you just said, Ivan, is that we have to think about how do we adapt to this ever heating planet. And that raises interesting questions about things like, poor nations and others, because for many, I think, radically thinking, it may be too late. They're going to be on the run. These nations are not going to be able to stay in the middle of a fire, right? They're going to start. And so that's more the idea, is how do we actually realize that there will be mass migration? Let's have that conversation. How do we let people migrate to areas that continue to have some level of life possibility? That's going to be more important than pretty much anything else, because they can't stay there. We're going to have to think about how actively to cool the planet, right? What are the technologies? It's still kind of exotic, but it's going to get serious in just a few years from now. The oceans are going to start, right, with all kinds of stuff. You get my point. So
stop one sec. So I was reading in the Economist today about the geoengineering, potential to geoengineer and actually sort of create a sunscreen on the Earth. And there's things that you can do, like in respect of sulphur, throwing sulphur particles in the air to do cooling. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. Those kind of things, not just that one. We're going to see dozens, hundreds, thousands of things that humans will do when we realize that this train has left the station. So how do we, it's back to David's uncle's thing, uncle's orientation is to